Hey everyone, my name is Butch Roy. I am the executive director here at Huge Improv Theater. And I just want to take a few minutes to record some updates, some news, and a look ahead at the future of Huge. It's going to be kind of wide ranging, it's going to cover a little bit of everything. It'll probably take a few minutes, and I'll try and keep it as clear and straightforward as I can. Um, Buckle up, here we go. Looking backwards, not long ago, in a whole different world, Huge attempted what we are calling our capital campaign 1.0. For those of you who don't know, we made an attempt to purchase a different building. We were talking to the sellers, the property owners directly, and had a couple of lending institutions that were interested and in talks with us. And we were faced with the opportunity to raise a very optimistic amount of money in a short amount of time. We had about 100 days to raise the money needed for the financing for the purchase of the building. So we launched an effort to find 1,000 people to give $1,000, as well as reaching out to everyone that we could contact to fundraise on our behalf. And the efforts that we saw were absolutely astounding. We saw people in our community giving at levels that we've never seen them give before, people giving at levels that they didn't think they could give at previously. And as well as things like Rob Reese organized a global day of events to raise money for this tiny little theater in Minneapolis, which is absolutely mind-blowing, and we owe a tremendous thanks to. Sadly, there were also efforts that you didn't get a chance to see. We didn't make it the full 100 days. At about day 70, one of the lending institutions changed their mind and was not on board, followed by a second. We reached out to the Land Bank, which is an organization that helps arts organizations acquire real estate. We had some good conversations there we were really optimistic about, but ultimately their committee decided not to go ahead. At that point, the sellers also pulled out, and everything came to a stop, which means we had efforts like Little & Company designed some marketing assets for us, some fundraising assets for us, that I think we got in hand 2 days before everything came to a stop, which was unfortunate. We had people in our community organizing committees to put together fundraising events, galas with their contacts that we weren't able to get off the ground in time. But we still owe those people thanks for the efforts that they made. Like I said, that was the 1.0. That building is not in the cards for us, but we are still 3 years from the end of our current lease in our space, so we are not, we are not closing here yet. We're not moving yet, but the idea of a huge capital campaign is something that you'll probably hear about in the near future as well. In the meantime, there have been a couple of global events that you may have heard about. Huge Theater closed due to COVID in mid-March and remains closed even now. We were among the first to close with the social distancing measures, and we will be among the last to open. As a small space, we don't have an outdoor space we can work with. Our building capacity is not such that we can safely reopen. And what we've heard from audiences and artists alike is essentially that the idea of gathering in a public space under one roof just isn't there yet, and we will likely remain closed until that time, until there's a safe, reliable, tested, proven vaccine. That is, closure is what we're looking at from now until then. Thankfully, Huge Theater has always been very focused on building reserves. We have operated in what I firmly believe is a really financially responsible, if not austere, way. And we've always been focused on building up reserves. For a long time, we thought that maybe Lyndale closing or the freeway closures would be our biggest headache that we would need to have reserves for. Boy, those were the good old days. But Huge Theater has some reserves on hand. We're able to hibernate the the building and close down all operations. Sadly, we had to furlough all of our event staff. That means house managers, technicians, bartenders, since there are no events to work. And our management staff has been on 3/4 furlough. We were recipients of a federal PPP loan, which allowed us to issue some payments to our furloughed staff. And they've extended those deadlines as well to allow us to sort of extend the viability of our 3/4 furlough. We've also received an economic impact disaster loan from the SBA, which allowed us to bank some more reserves to keep the company alive, but in hibernation for some time. This is the first institutional debt that the theater's taken on in about 10 years. Like I said, we've always been very proud of our operations, and we're glad that we're able to hang on, albeit there are scary days, and we're hanging on by our fingernails. But for now, we're hanging on until such time as that we can reopen, and we hope to be there when the time comes where we can reopen. In order to get us there, there are some things, and there are some things that you can do. Huge is a member of the NIVA, that's the National Independent Venue Association. They are a lobbying group that has been working on the Save Our Stages Act. It's a piece of legislation that has been written and co-signed, and you can get behind. Sadly, sharing on Facebook is not enough. We need you to reach out to your legislators and tell them that the Save Our Stages Act needs to pass and be funded and be signed. As you can imagine, hinging all of your hopes on the passage of legislation in 2020 is a terrifying reality, but that is where we are. Save Our Stages Act, look into it. The NIVA, if you're looking at getting involved, is the body behind it, and we hope that passes as written and very soon. In the meantime, the building, like I said, has been mostly in stasis. The South Minneapolis Free Clothing Drive has been using all of our free space that isn't the theater, meaning our back classrooms, the hallways and lobby, to collect donations of free clothing, sort, and then open a small storefront to provide free clothing. Initially, it was for anyone affected by the fires and the uprising in Minneapolis, but extends to anyone that needs free clothing. We're very happy that the building can be doing some good when we can't be using it to entertain. They will continue operations through at least the middle of October, and you can find them on Facebook, South Minneapolis Free Clothing. In the meantime, we've also done some streaming shows. We did the combined Twin Cities Improv and Black and Funny Improv Festivals. We streamed some shows from our stage. We've had some shows move online entirely. Creature Feature is happening on Zoom. As we all sort of try and recreate an entire art form to fit in this new world, we have some online classes as well that have been slowly building over this time, but Huge, like a lot of people, have been spending some time. Well, we've had to spend some time waiting for guidance and answers, and also waiting for artists to be ready to put together some shows online. It's not a small thing to ask someone to reinvent their entire show to happen on Zoom. And also, artists are human beings that live in this burning nightmare that we all live in now. So there was a period of time where, and I think there still is, where people aren't and weren't ready to come back and just entertain and be silly. And that's something in the area of social justice that Huge Theater has wrestled with. We put out a statement during the uprising about the murder of George Floyd, and have mostly tried to amplify and support where we can. But what we didn't want is for the efforts to put entertainment online to come across in any way as a let's get back to normal, return to silliness. There's important work that we need to also be doing while we're closed. Which brings us to some future announcements and some efforts that we're making to change Huge Theater as we move ahead. Like I said, we hope to reopen when the time comes, when audiences feel safe, when artists feel safe, when our staff is safe to return. We hope that public gatherings can be a thing again, and we can be a part of that, and that we can make it to that time. As I also mentioned, we have about 3 years left on our 10-year lease. We have informed our landlord some time ago that we don't intend to renew our lease with him. And property ownership, as highlighted by the COVID closures, is extremely important. And also, this is when it's extremely important that it matters that we made public statements against our landlord in a time when people say, like, hey, just ask your landlord for a break on the rent. No. But, so we have some things ahead of us. Not only when the time comes when we can reopen, or even before that, we will need to fundraise to keep the theater alive and healthy. Nothing is ever going to replace the ticket sales, tuition, donations. And when the time comes that we do reopen, we're going to have a lot of fight ahead of us to build back those reserves, pay our rent, pay our artists. And I think we're ready to do that. And there's been a lot of thought put into what that looks like. So, a look even further back that I think helps inform where we're going now. So when Huge Theater started, it was in 2009. It was myself, Nels Lennis, Jill Bernard, formed the company on paper, and got our nonprofit status, signed a lease, and here we are. During that time, I left my job and became the executive director and president of Huge Theater, mostly because I had the privilege and the luxury of being able to do so, to be able to leave my job and focus on doing this full time. And I benefited from some training and experience I got at the Brave New Workshop, which I'm extremely grateful for. And a lot of it was also on-the-job training, the process of going through. Boy, you learn about every little thing, dealing with the city, insurance, liquor licensing, trash service, sewage service, you name it. I got to go through the process and learn about, which is the valuable on-the-job training that I still use today. But as the end of our lease is coming, probably a future capital campaign is on the horizon. We have a unique opportunity as an organization, and it's this. Normally, in a nonprofit, the board would hire the executive director, and the executive director would make all the hiring decisions after that. Instead, we've undertaken sort of an unusual plan, and the board has approved. So John Gebertatios and I have been talking about his becoming the next executive director of Huge Theater. If you don't know, John is the director of diversity and inclusion, and has really brought a lot of change, not only to Huge Theater, but to this entire art form in the time that he's been in that role. In that role, it has affected every area and part of Huge Theater, from how we talk about our classes, how we look at our classes, how we look at our shows and our productions, how we communicate with the public. So it only makes sense that especially because he has experience dealing with every department and silo in Huge Theater, that we take the next steps and spend the upcoming time completing that training. We have in front of us the opportunity to spend the next several years having John and I together go through a capital campaign, go through fundraising, go through reopening, go through the process of dealing with whatever the new space is, whether it's purchasing a new building or finding a new place to rent or something else that we haven't thought of yet. All of those things are ahead of us, and they're the perfect opportunity to train the next executive director for Huge Theater. John and I have met several times over months, and to make sure that it was a spiritual fit, that he was ready and up for the role, which is not a small thing to ask, especially during the uprising and the focus on social justice, to ask him to spend his time preparing the future of this silly place for this strange art form, and brought that plan to the board. They're on board, and we've been calling it our 5-year plan, just as a shorthand, to have John and I together go through the remaining 3 years of our lease, and all the work that goes into that, of looking at it as on-the-job training, and then a period during which I will be available to John to advise, consult, whatever he needs for the years following that. I plan on keeping my seat on the board and moving into what is a more traditional theater manager role. So I will still be around Huge Theater. I still get to take care of the physical space that we built together, which is something that I love very much, and take with me from my time as a technical director, both at the Brave New Workshop and here. And I'm very excited about. But moreover, I'm very excited to prepare John to be the set of hands into which we place Huge Theater and its future. I think that is an astounding opportunity, and I'm very excited. So I think some congratulations are in order. We'll get to talk more about it as things unfold, as we get to reopen, as we understand more what's in front of us exactly. But just know that John and I will be doing that together with the full support of the management staff and the board here at Huge Theater. And we're really excited for what that future looks like. Thanks, everybody.